Final Fantasy sucks now. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is going to save the entire JRPG genre. And if you disagree, I'll fight you.
Who fucking summoned me?
Guys, gals, and non-binary pals, behold, the birth of the JRPG, the final fantastique, the Je suis cked, the Pokémon Ami, the Chrono Croissant, the Dragon Quest Cassette, the Omelette du Gommage, the best Final Fantasy in nearly 25 years. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a game that none of us saw coming. I saw the trailer for this a few months ago and thought, yeah, this will be another stale throw of the dice with stock dialogue, a cookie cutter premise, and the usual 30 hours of padding thrown in for adult babies with a crippling need to jork it to every set of polygons that they see. And I was wrong. Lord above was I wrong. Apart from the jorking it part. Boy, is there a lot of just straight up, pure, undiluted feet in this game. So I'm just going to come out and say it. Clair Obscur is fucking fantastic, almost certainly game of the year, and absolutely on my big list of all-time greatest JRPGs that are definitely as good as I remember them being, and in no way coated in a heavy sheen of nostalgia thicker than Jeffrey Epstein's Little Book of Compromat. It has single-handedly restored my faith in the genre, and for the first time since hearing the name Asmongold, given me a tiny ray of hope about the gaming industry at large. Simply because I am a reformed Final Fantasy enjoyer. I am that prick that knows that Final Fantasy VII was the peak of the series, and that everything after 10, including 7 Remake, was basically irredeemable milquetoast garbo. Yes, it is me, the game understander has logged on. I am that guy that knows that Square-Enix doesn't understand its own series anymore, and that artistic integrity doesn't really matter to giant corporations when enough people are happy to lap up whatever slop that they're putting out. Yes, Daddy Nomura, yes, I would like another trite tsundere dickhead to go with my bucket of poorly written women. Nom 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 nom. What am I doing with my time? Safe to say that I do not like modern Final Fantasy, and you might, and that's totally okay. I can see you typing in the comments there. You don't have to tell me I'm wrong, I know. 16 was kind of okay, and 14 was amazing if you poop sock your way through 40 hours of the MMO build water. Don't worry, you won. Square makes games for you now, and I am not at all bitter and transparently masking my resentment with a cool and mysterious vibe that makes you totally want to subscribe to me. Please subscribe to my channel. But wherever you fall on the spectrum, I'd like to give you a quick, fair, even-handed, and objective little rundown on what makes the golden era of Final Fantasy oh so delectably golden, and why the current crop of games are irredeemable, steaming piles of dog shit. The daddy, the big boy, my first. The game that got me into the entire JRPG genre. And why? Because it's fucking amazing, that's why. But why is it fucking amazing? Because to me at least, Final Fantasy VII was something new. It was mysterious. Final Fantasy VII had an aura to it. The opening chapters of the game present you with a singular cause. You find yourself in the middle of a city where a monopolistic corporation has bullied and bribed its way into political domination and is on the verge of causing an extinction-level event in the pursuit of yet more profit. You are led to believe that you're on a mission to bring down this corporation and that that's all that this game will be about. But by the end of this one, the CEO is dead. A mysterious, hot guy appears out of nowhere and just straight up Luigi's your primary antagonist. Now, I was about 10 when I first played Final Fantasy VII, and let me tell you, my jimmies were fully rustled. I was not prepared for the story to take a turn like that at that age. Much like how unprepared I was for almost my entire expedition to be wiped out about 10 seconds from leaving the tutorial in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Clair Obscur, just like Final Fantasy VII, uses your pre-existing knowledge of video game plot beats to set up a framework of expectations and then demolishes it, leaving you with absolutely no idea what the fuck is going on. The game introduces you to your fellow expeditioners in the usual gamey manner. It lets you fall in love with their potential personalities and has you guessing which one might fill the role of healer, tank, and mage, and then pink mists almost every single one of them. I'm going to be honest with you, you might have seen this coming, but I am dumb as fuck and absolutely did not. When Renoir steps up and slices that one guy's face clean off, I just didn't know what to do with myself. What the fuck does this mean for the plot? Why is he old, and why am I old? Both games hit you with the bait and switch. Both games skew with your perception of everybody's relative power levels within their first few chapters. But more importantly, both games' stories are obscuring a hidden story beneath the one that you think you're playing. Not entirely unlike... Now, I'm going to say this. I really like the plot in Final Fantasy VIII, but I don't know what it is. I have no idea what happens, let alone why what happens. My current understanding is that it's all a dream / it's sorceresses all the way down, which is exactly where I thought Clair Obscur was going when I first started to suspect that something was a little bit fucky. But where Clair Obscur slowly and masterfully, I might add, drops tiny little breadcrumbs that taste just a little bit fucky, Final Fantasy VIII lets you play almost an entire game and then pulls the rug on you right at the last minute. It distracts you with Laguna Loire and his incredibly piercing eyes that have you questioning every natural urge you've ever felt, and then sucker punches you with body possession / rape analogies and consecutive timeline nonsense when you least suspect it. And it works really well. I just wish I understood it. But Clair Obscur does something really clever. It front loads a bunch of questions and then does something rarely seen in big budget gaming. It trusts its audience to stick with its narrative and then rewards them with a bunch of absolutely insane payoffs in the plot. Until you down the paintress and step outside the painting, you exist in a near constant state of what the fuck is happening, who the fuck is this, why the fuck did they just do the thing they just did, this world makes no geological sense, everything here is so pretty, I absolutely have to know where all this is going, or I'm going to kill myself. The game sets up so many mysteries and refuses to answer them until the climax of Chapter 2. And when it finally does give you the answers you've been oh so desperate to shove into your stupid little gooner brain, it gets weird. Not entirely unlike... Actually, I didn't finish Final Fantasy IX. I have no strong feelings about it one way or another. I didn't like the art direction. Zidane's outfit is fucking stupid. The last great Final Fantasy. The last Final Fantasy that wasn't entirely trite as fuck. The last Final Fantasy that felt like a worthy investment of my time. Now, it's not without its problems. A lot of the dialogue and the plot beats in Final Fantasy X are unbearably bad. But compared to modern Final Fantasy entries, it may as well be fucking Shakespeare. Because at the very least, I am interested in the characters and where they're going. Tidus, Wakar, Lulu, Auron, Kimahri. Look at the costume design compared to their modern peers. They are bright, vibrant, varied, and if nothing else, interesting, which I don't think could be said about the character design in Final Fantasy XV. But aesthetics aside, Final Fantasy X was the last mainstream Final Fantasy game to feature turn-based combat. Is it a coincidence that the series dropped off massively after that? Is it that I'm just allowing childhood nostalgia to get in the way of fair and objective analysis? No. Final Fantasy is bad now. Okay, maybe that's a little bit harsh. Let me put it like this. Final Fantasy is boring now. Final Fantasy X, to me, felt like the last time that Square was willing to make Final Fantasy something that was experimental, unique, and unafraid to try something that wasn't market-tested, board-approved, and safe. The first Final Fantasy to move away from turn-based combat and towards a more action-oriented model. Unforgivable dogshit. Come on man, what are we even doing here? Watch a car drive itself, then hop out the car for 5 minutes of substandard Devil May Cry combat, then hop back in the car and watch it drive itself for another 40 minutes. The main character's name is Clive. So there we have it, an inarguably fair and objective analysis of modern Final Fantasy. In summation, 7 to 10, good, amazing, art, incredible works of art that will never again be touched by the very company that birthed them in the first place. 12 onwards, corpo slop with no redeeming features, not a single worthy idea, nor anything resembling artistic merit. Now, Obviously, or not obviously, judging by the comments I got the last time I spoke on Final Fantasy, I am over-exaggerating my position in order to make you laugh or piss you off enough to leave a comment on this video and hopefully lift me out of small YouTuber purgatory. I am not here to tell you that you are not enjoying the things that you are enjoying. But I would offer you this. In my opinion, in my completely factual and irrefutable opinion, Final Fantasy's decision to move away from turn-based combat and into action-based combat was a move made purely to widen the appeal of the series and potentially open it up to a larger market share. And that every game in the modern pantheon has suffered creatively as a direct result of that decision. Now, you are free to disagree, absolutely, that is 100% fine. But I don't think it's entirely unfair to say that modern Final Fantasy has lost a lot of its identity, and that rather than being a franchise that had its imitators, is now the series that does the imitation. It wants the combat of Devil May Cry. It wants the aesthetics of a K-pop band. It wants to be so many things to so many people that it waters itself down and loses sight of what made itself so unique in the first place. Which reminds me, I forgot about...
X-Wings! Death Star! ATSTs! ATSTs!
It broke new ground!
Star Destroyers! I'm gonna come!
Ugh, God, I fucking hate this shit. This shit right here is exactly what's wrong with Square Enix's design philosophy. Right off the bat, why is it 3 games? Because money. No other reason. Because Square Enix knows that everyone from Death Grips fans to anyone that bought a wall scroll between the years of 1998 and 2006 will almost certainly buy a Final Fantasy VII Remake. And if they'll buy one, they'll buy 3. So why spaff 20 years of collective nostalgia on one release when you can fart out 2 more? Stretched out with the answer to every question that nobody asked, unbearably bad dance sequences, millennial bait Marvel quips, and inane multiverse drivel. I do not like the Final Fantasy VII Remake project. It took what was once a bold and pioneering story about eco-terrorism and energy monopolies and turned it into generic, cliched, fan service mush. To me, it is a demonstration of the fact that art should never be a commodity, that when the chips are down, the man at the top will make a strip mine of your most favourite childhood memory. That, and the fact that millennials would buy an Anne Frank Funko Pop if it existed. Holy fucking shit, it does!
What the hell? Emotional damage!
I had all but let go of ever playing another good Final Fantasy game. But out of nowhere comes this game. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is in every sense of the word a triumph. Square has dropped the ball, let it slide, absolutely fucked it. They've been complacent, lazy, greedy and entitled, and while most people are happy to lap up the slop, some of us have been starving for nourishment, begging, screaming, pleading, crying out for a JRPG of some substance.
Play Persona, you piece of shit.
No. Now get out of here, you handsome intruder with an incredible YouTube channel. Get out of here before I send the tall women after you. So why am I so excruciatingly stoked on this game? Because it's so good, you guys. Go play this game. Have you played Clair Obscur yet? Oh my god, this game rocks. Made by only 33 developers. The best turn-based game in years. I love this game because it's really good. It's so fucking good, man. Have you played it yet? Even as a card-carrying turn-based combat enjoyer, I have to admit it addresses some of the legitimate complaints from people that have a picosecond attention span. Most obvious of which is that turn-based combat is boring, that it's too passive, that it's just not fun. I happen to prefer the passivity of older RPGs compared to the more frenetic nature of recent games because 1, I am bad at video games, and 2, I just find it more enjoyable to sit back and relax and think about the game that I'm playing rather than reacting to all the flashing lights and noises whilst being slurred out by teenagers and finding out apparently just how promiscuous my late mother was, according to Weed Boner Hitler 69420. Crass and boneheaded classism aside, Clair Obscur revolutionizes the old JRPG combat experience and forces the player to take an active role in the combat or die. You don't have to time your attacks perfectly, but you 100% have to have your shit together when it comes to dodging and parrying, or you're going to get beat up worse than Keir Starmer at next year's Pride Parade. Yeah, hi, Editing Koi here. Since the time of recording, this joke no longer works because Labour have been banned from all future Pride events due to them selling out trans people. Which, even though I am dog turd at video games and initially found it to be incredibly frustrating, I actually appreciated the difficulty more and more as the game went on. Knowing that 2 or 3 missed parries could end me when I could have dodged and played it safe really flicks the little risk-reward bean in the fun time parts of my brain. Oh fuck! The game does the same thing that Slay the Spire does and says, listen, we know that we've got this incredibly tight series of mechanics underpinning the systems in this game, but if you're willing to sit down and learn them, you can absolutely break them over your knee and do whatever you want with them. But having the game's fundamental systems rely on such harsh timing is kind of gatekeepy, and more importantly, excludes some players that might have accessibility issues. There is no real reason for a modern turn-based RPG not to have an accessibility option that does all the parries for you, especially when you consider there's a toggle already in game that does all the attack QTEs for you. Fuck me! It honestly makes me kind of sad to think that this game is just too demanding for some people to experience, because combat aside, holy shit, the writing in this game is so good. I cannot remember the last time I felt such a sense of whimsy, pathos, shock, confusion, frustration, and joy all at once from a big budget game. It has the absolute emotional gut punches of Final Fantasy VII. It has the self-seriousness of 8 and the self-silliness of 10. But more importantly, it has something that Final Fantasy hasn't had for decades. Self-awareness. Clair Obscur knows what it is. It tells you in the very title itself. It is light and dark. The game, at its core, is a reminder that yes, life is a constant struggle of misery and sadness. But way deep down in the mud, even way down there is joy to be found. Right from the start, you are dropped into a world whose inhabitants are mercilessly turned into flowers annihilation style once a year. Your missus gets bouqueted and you are sent on a hopeless suicide mission, and everyone with you on that suicide mission gets instantly gibbed the second they set foot on land. But even with the insane amount of trauma dumping and gaslighting that the game inflicts upon you in its first 2 hours, it still manages to find time for a bit of a lull with the mandem. The term Clair Obscur or chiaroscuro is something to do with light and dark in art. I don't know. I looked up the Wikipedia article, but Wikipedia doesn't have those little videos of the dude run along down the bottom yet, so it's basically a zero value to me. I'm sure it's got something to do with the game, something like for every bumbling hot water bottle of joy and innocence like cked, there is a spiky try-hard emo kid like Verso. Just like life. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but what I do know is this. I did a lol to this game. I did a lamau even. I even did an emotion from time to time. The game is incredibly measured and thoughtful in how it paces out its tone switching in a way that might be the most effective I've ever seen in a game. Like cked says, the wee balances the woo. But the real sweetener for me is that this game has levels. Final Fantasy hasn't had a plot this innovative since ever. Final Fantasy, nowadays at least, is a trope city built on trope foundations and anchored into a bedrock of tropes. It is derivative and just not very thoughtful, at least in comparison to Clair Obscur. In Clair Obscur, every frame rendered in game is loaded with so much thought, environmental exposition, and thematic simile that they may as well be paintings themselves. From the implied trench warfare and the piles of expeditioner bodies found in the Forgotten Battlefield, evoking the generational scars inflicted on France in World War I, to the negative space Dark Souls arena surrounding the hardest optional endgame boss just looking rad as all hell, every enemy, every area, every facet of the visual experience in this game is a treat for the eyes as much as it is for the head. And even the most die-hard Final Fantasy defender, if they're being true to themselves, has to admit the modern Final Fantasy just does not contain the multitudes found in Clair Obscur, which I think is emblematic of one thing and one thing only: corporatized artistic dilution. The company that made Final Fantasy VII, 8, 9, and 10 is an entirely different entity to the one that made 16. Squaresoft is dead, reborn as Square-Enix, a self-described multinational holding company, comprised of thousands, dedicated entirely to the pursuit of profit, and one that sees art purely as a resource to exploit. The polar opposite to the team that made Clair Obscur. Call of Duty sucks. FIFA sucks, Madden sucks, Overwatch sucks, Assassin's Creed sucks.
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
Assassin's Creed sucks.
And I say this as somebody who buys the yearly Assassin's Creed entry a year after it's released for 75% off with all the DLCs. And every year I am, well, not disappointed, but I am very rarely impressed. Assassin's Creed and the vast majority of Ubisoft's output is fast food. Most people that eat fast food eat McDonald's, and most people that play games play AAA games. Assassin's Creed is a Whopper, Call of Duty is a Big Mac, DLCs are kind of like side orders, dips would be microtransactions, I guess? Where am I going with all this? My point is that AAA studios are vast machines that creak and groan. Their output is divined by committee. Their corporate structures are incomprehensible to anyone but their inner circles, and their hardworking and talented employees are ground down every single day by being forced to feed slop into the slop-making machine. And as a result, their creative output is all crappy and boring. Oh, look at it. Oh, nasty. Boo. Sandfall Interactive is a brand new company fresh from the turd mines at Ubisoft. Their core staff knows exactly how and why the industry leaders are constantly on the verge of dying off. They are uniquely positioned to exploit their competitors' weaknesses, and they've done it by demonstrating that a game made by 30 odd people and hundreds of others who love their jobs can outsell a game made by thousands who hate theirs. It makes me wonder, how many of those people making uninspired, directionless piffle as dictated by the whims of middle managers, how many of those people could be making incredible games like Clair Obscur if they weren't forced into corporate servitude? How many of those amazing developers have been robbed of their potential by making Climbable Tower 47 in Far Cry 6? How many works of art like Clair Obscur would we have if people's basic needs were met and they didn't have to work for flipping Ubisoft? The talent is there. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is demonstrable, irrefutable proof that when a group of experienced and passionate people are free from the whims of nebulous financial ghosts hovering above them, giants can be slayed and great things can be made. Now, obviously, I am someone that exists and subsists solely on pretentious indie chaff, but for the first time in years, Sandfall Interactive have me genuinely hopeful for the future of big budget gaming. I just hope that John Sony, John Microsoft, and John Madden take the right things away from the very public humiliation that they've just suffered. They absolutely will not, though. Jesus fucking Christ! Bubba, I'm supposed to be dead. I'm dead. Get up. Get up. God, scoot. I'm supposed to be dead. You're not helping.